A lot of people might not have a complete understanding of how copyright law works. We saw a lot of hot takes from different people, but we decided we were going to bring you the experts because I'll admit, I'm not sure if I entirely knew or understood some of the copyright laws that we have in Zimbabwe. And joining me this morning to unpack this in detail is Polisile Ncube Chimhini. She is the Executive Director for the Zimbabwe Music Rights Association. Zimura, Polisile, good morning and thank you for making time for us on Morning Rush this morning.
Good morning.
All right. Zimbabwe Music Rights Association. Maybe let's start there in terms of what your role in the music industry is so that, we can build up into some of the things that we want to discuss this morning.
Okay. The role of the Zimbabwe Music Rights Association is to protect copyright, particularly music copyright for publishers, composers, music writers, and producers. How this copyright is protected is we license all business premises that use music. We start with broadcasters, shops, nightclubs, hotels, banks, you name it. Any business that uses music, we are supposed to license them for copyright, give them a copyright license, and then after that, we are supposed to pay royalties to the artists.
But copyright, it has become such a buzzword, especially January, February 2024, with a lot of things that were happening. People are having some of their content pulled down on different sites. Maybe let's zone in on that. What is copyright when it comes to music?
Copyright is a legal right which is given to an artist when they've created an intellectual property work. Intellectual property is intangible property. It's as good as owning a house or a car or a cow, but this type of property is property that you can't touch. It's intellect, it comes from the mind. So in terms of music, when you're talking of copyright, we are talking of someone who has created a song, whether it's a melody or lyrics or both the melody put together with the lyrics to create a song. When the person creates this song in Zimbabwe, there's no need to register copyright. Copyright is automatic according to the Copyright Enabling Rights Act of Zimbabwe. So what it means is the moment you bring your work into some material form, you already have copyright. What we register at the Zimbabwe Music Rights Association is the artist, so that we get the details of the artist and we are able to pay royalties at the end of the day. So that we know the music that they have, but we are not registering copyright per se. Okay.
And you speaking about the association, how does one become a member?
For one to become a member, you got to have some works that you've created, music particularly. There are a few items that we require. Basically, personal details, your ID number, a photograph, your bank account, and the music, whether it's physical or electronic.
Right. You did highlight the issue of royalties and how you guys are also key in maybe registering the establishments or anybody that is working with music in terms of maybe its distribution and just playing out. In terms of royalties, how does the process work in terms of collection from you guys as Zimura and then getting it to the back end, which is to the artist?
Okay, when we collect copyright fees from users, we rely on what are called log sheets. These we get from broadcasters mainly, because that is where we can get evidence that music has been used. With those log sheets, we go through them. They tell us whose music was played, how many times. We use a system called WIPO Connect, which were given by the World Intellectual Property Organization. And this is where we are able to identify the different artists and the different works. Whether the artist is a member or not, we are able to pay royalties because at the end of the day, the system pays all works with names. And we just wait for those names to come and claim the royalties. So if you have works that are being broadcast, it's possible that you might have money at the Zimbabwe Music Rights.
Right. And another thing that we've seen more recently, because I think the traditional forms of media primarily have been print, TV and radio, but with the advent of social media, we're seeing streaming platforms come on board. We're seeing platforms like YouTube, your social media sites, like your Facebook. Do you guys also have a way of sort of collecting royalties based on what happens on those different platforms, or that's beyond you guys' purview?
We do collect for digital platforms, although there are different rights that come from digital platforms. The artists themselves can collect directly. And there's another aspect of master's rights that we collect on behalf of the artist. This we do through our sister association called CAPASO, which is based in South Africa. We approach the digital platforms as a block so that we get more money for Africa. So in that case, we are able to pay our artists as well.
All right. And I know one of the more topical issues around copyrights recently had to deal with Jar Signal and the Charambas, and I think Jar Signal ended up having some of his material pulled off some of these sites. In terms of then having those squabbles where somebody claims copyright, what role do you guys as Zimura play in resolving that?
There are some copyright infringement cases which have to be dealt with directly by the author. This is relevant to the Jar Signal Charamba issue because most of it had to do with moral rights more than economic rights. When we talk of moral rights, we are talking of rights of paternity, right to be known or not to be known as the composer of a song, right to reject to any use of the song in any manner. So what happened there is the Charambas didn't like the lyrics that Jar Signal used on the melody that they created in their own song. And this was communicated way back, it was 2018 when he started. And then they thought he had listened, but then in 2023, he also did another copyright infringement on another of their songs. So they thought if it was going to continue, it was going to harm their career. So they had to put a stop to it.
You mentioned it was a moral copyright. Did I get that?
Yeah, more of it was more to do with moral rights than economic rights. As Charamba rightly said, that he didn't want any money from Jar Signal, but it was to do with moral rights. And these rights are provided for in the Copyright Act.
So if I'm an artist and I create something, it is my privilege or my right to say I do not want it to be used in a specific way.
Yes, I think you already know that some songs are used in movies, in dramas, in soaps, and things like that. So if you are an artist and someone is running their drama and they want to use your music, they've got to ask you if you want.
So you can't just say, I like the Charamba song, Mati Sepa Morning Rush, it's an opening song.
No, you can't. You have to ask. Because in case they don't want their song to be associated with whatever you are doing, then they've got the right to say no.
But what about, does this apply to where the song can be? For example, if I am hosting an event, does that affect that as well? Like I'm a DJ and like I'm hosting like a party at a football ground or whatever. Does moral rights come into that? I'm trying to see where the line is drawn here in that regard. To say, at what point do you say, no? Because if I come and I'm playing for an audience, do I still have to ask for permission?
No.
Yeah.
If you are playing for an audience in a public event, you have to get a copyright license.
Oh, okay.
The one that Zimura issues.
Okay.
Then you'll be covered for the play of the song.
Right.
Because what you are doing there, you are playing the song as it is.
Yeah.
You are not rearranging the song, you are not adapting the song, you are not synchronizing the song into another work. So there's nothing wrong with playing the work, but you should get a copyright license.
And then I've noticed as well, especially with maybe some of the newer genres in music, there is a lot of sampling of maybe music from older artists or from years ago. How does that work now? Is there a time frame to say, if a song is 25 years old, for example, you don't have to ask permission, or you still have, like, what happens if I want to sample a Dembo song and he's no longer with us?
If you want to sample a Dembo song, you have to approach my Dembo, who holds Dembo's copyright right now, so that she gives you permission. She can ask you to pay, she can give you for free, because copyright lasts for the lifetime of the artist and for 50 years after the death of the artist. So if an artist dies and 50 years has not passed, their works are still in copyright. And if you want to do anything with the work, you've got to ask whoever is holding the copyright at the time.
I know, like we said, obviously the issues of copyright have been topical. As Zimura, I understand you guys have plans to go across the country to raise awareness. Maybe just unpack that for us in terms of maybe people who might be interested in just making sure they are on the right side of copyright laws in Zimbabwe.
Okay, these workshops, we started them last year. The plan is to make sure every Zimbabwean at least knows something about copyright, because we noticed that a lot of people in Zimbabwe do not know anything about copyright or intellectual property in particular. So we have those workshops every month. We move around the cities from Harare, we go as far as Vic Falls, we go as far as Gwanda, we go to Mutare, we go to Chinoi. So we are beginning 2024 workshops on the 12th of March. We are starting in Mutare this time. By end of November, we should have reached all big towns in Zimbabwe. And
do you need to be a member of Zimura to be able to take part in these workshops? Or?
No, in these workshops we invite members of the public, public prosecutors, the Zimbabwe Republic Police, members of the public, artists, our members, city councils. Anyone who is in business is welcome.
Konapo, ipapo pa ZTN Prime, DSTV channel 294, the place to be.